Good morning, artist Charles Wolf here. Let's get to painting. Now I found this unusual canvas size at 6 by 18 inches, kind of a 3-to-1 ratio at my local craft store, and I was just blown away by it. They only had a couple of these size canvases left, unfortunately, so I just bought the last ones that they had. I wish I had gotten more, but that's how it goes sometimes. And I'm going to be using some PVA tacky glue. Here in the US it's called tacky glue. I hear other places in the world it's called PVA glue. Basically it's an acrylic glue, and it's going to be our sort of foundation layer and add some texture to our canvas. I'm using a very old brush. This is a 1-inch chip brush, kind of a cheap throwaway kind of brush, and I don't mind if it gets ruined by this process. So if you're going to do this at home and use this PVA glue technique to create these lovely, lovely textures underneath your painting, then I really, really suggest you use a brush that you don't care about. Don't use a nice brush, use a cheap brush. It will get ruined by this process. I have out there on the right my blow dryer, and I'm going to be using that in just a minute to heat up this glue and to dry it off really, really fast. Luckily, it doesn't take very long to dry, and you can see as I zoom in here, this technique gives you a really great texture. This is especially useful if you're doing something like an abstract, as I am today. Going to add here a bit more of the PVA glue, not quite enough in that upper corner. Yeah, that's much better. There's a couple different techniques you can use. You can sort of mash your brush into it. You can kind of spread it out gently like I am here. It doesn't really matter. You can even use your fingers, put some gloves on of course, and smear it about if you like that. Do note that PVA glue tends to sort of settle, and it will start to make these kind of splotchy connections between itself. Just keep that in mind. It probably won't maintain any sharp ridges, but it will have some nice hills and valleys for you. But you will have a nice texture nonetheless. I have time-lapsed this because I did blow dry this off for about 5 minutes. I know you don't want to sit here watching me blow dry for 5 minutes, so I'm just speeding this up really, really fast for you. See that I am being fairly thorough with it, trying to get everything well dried. Trying not to stay in one section too long. I'm going to test it with my fingers. You want it to be pliable, but you don't want it to be coming off in long strings on your hand. I'm going to add some cadmium yellow here, as well as some cadmium orange hue. This is cadmium yellow medium, by the way, and then I'll be coming in a minute with the orange hue. Now, my camera, unfortunately, somehow shut off in the middle of this, and I really hate it when that happens because that meant that the middle step was lost. Now, I will tell you exactly what I did, and I will also let you know how you can do it, and I have a couple other videos where I use a very similar technique that I will point you to, so you'll get to see everything. And I apologize I don't have everything for this particular painting. Again, the camera shut off, I didn't realize it, and when I found out that it had, for some reason, I'm not sure exactly why it did, it was already too late because I had moved on to a later step. So we'll be doing a little bit of a jump forward here in just a moment. Just keep that in mind that I will explain everything. I'm going to just mix this very gently with a old spatula, one I bought for about $1 at one of the local dollar stores, and I tore off the handle and I use it and it works really well. So see, I've jumped forward, but it's not too bad. Basically, I took the yellow and then I went and got some of that cobalt blue, brushed it upwards into the yellow. So you have blue plus the yellow makes that green color. That's not green added, that's just the blue hitting the yellow and turning green. And I just pushed it straight up. The same technique I used for the yellow into the orange, I did with the blue into the yellow. Taking the edge of my spatula, I cut in the white tree trunks back there. I just cut right through the paint and exposed the white glue underneath. Nothing fancy, no extra white paint needed. The glue is already there. I'm just cutting through the layers of the paint while it's still wet. Also added a few smaller sort of flower type strokes on the bottom and the left hand side and the bottom right hand side. And that little kind of white path, pebbly looking thing, I've just taken the corner and I pulled up the blue just straight up in a little tiny upward motion with just the corner of my spatula. I'm now adding some more of the Cadmium Orange Hue. Hey, up in the right hand corner, there's my cat, Mr. Ian. Hi Ian, how's it going, buddy? Anyway, so I'm taking the orange hue and I'm going to just dabble it on in just a few spots. This painting is very simple, not too complicated. I'm going to be adding some of that orange to the path to kind of make it pop and show over that blue. Taking a little bit of the cadmium yellow medium and just adding a little bit more to the center here. I felt like it needed to be a little bit further down so it looked a little bit better. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. Okay, pulling upward, being fairly careful. Just going to spread it out here for just a moment. If you would like to see me cutting in these branches and see how I do that, you can check out either my spring leaves painting on this channel or my autumn leaves painting, abstract painting on this channel, and they use the same sort of technique, PVA glue underneath and then a spatula to smear out the paint. Taking a little bit of the yellow right on the edge of my spatula, I'm going to make some nice horizontal strokes, and then I'm going to grab a little bit more of the blue. Now, I grabbed the wrong color blue here. Kind of laughing at myself that I did this. I grabbed the darker ultramarine blue, and I meant to grab what is the cobalt blue, which is the blue below. So I had to lift it up, and it's not a big deal. I can kind of fix it. And so I cut out a lot of it, and then I just kind of blended that together and made some darker green back there. Not a big deal. It happens. Be careful when you're doing this. If you need to add a color, make sure you grab the right one. I don't know why I grabbed the ultramarine, probably because a lot of my paintings use the ultramarine. That's what I usually use. In this case, I was using cobalt. Oops. That way I have a little bit of a darker section there anyways, and it makes a nice shadow, and we're going to roll with it. Taking and adding a little bit more of the yellow to the tree line, and then I'm going to take with just the side of my clean spatula and pull that yellow upward, creating some nice sunbeam-like effects. Alright, and with that we are just about done. I'm going to add a little bit more of the yellow into the tree line, but otherwise, that's it.